Imagine a sun-scorched frontier, lawless towns, and cowboys riding off into the sunset alone. Sounds familiar, right? We've all been taught to admire the solitary hero, the lone gunslinger, the fearless outlaw, the rugged individual who tamed the Wild West on their own. But what if everything you thought you knew about the frontier is wrong? What if the legends we celebrate were never truly alone, but part of vibrant, supportive communities working tirelessly behind the scenes? Today, we re-challenging the classic image of the lone wolf hero and uncovering the hidden network of people who made the West possible. Welcome to Western Tales Official, your source for history that goes beyond the myths, Hollywood films, dime novels, and even school textbooks have drilled the image of solitary heroism into our collective imagination. Characters like Jesse James or Billy the Kid are often depicted as lone agents of chaos or justice, riding out of town after their exploits, leaving behind awestruck townsfolk. This narrative is gripping, cinematic, and emotionally satisfying. But reality paints a different picture. Surviving in the harsh, untamed West was rarely a solo endeavor. The brutal climate, hostile landscapes, and constant threats made survival virtually impossible without collaboration. Today, we'll pull back the veil on the people who history forgot, the communities, the families, and the marginalized groups who collectively forged the frontier. So, if the lone hero is a myth, who really deserves credit for building the West? Was it the rugged individual or the people standing together, facing adversity as a team? Stay tuned, because this story will change how you see every cowboy legend. In the next part, we'll explore the unseen architects of the frontier, ordinary people whose extraordinary collective efforts shaped the very West we think of as wild and untamed. Behind every famous gunfighter or outlaw, there was a network of people whose contributions went unrecorded. Homesteaders shared tools and knowledge. Indigenous communities provided vital survival skills, and immigrant laborers built the infrastructure that made towns possible. From barn raisings to irrigation projects, collective action wasn't optional, it was essential. Picture a frontier town in the 1860s. Families gathered to construct a barn in a single day, pooling their labor, expertise, and resources. Neighbors defend each other against threats, from wild animals to bandits. Even everyday survival tasks like hunting, preserving food, or navigating treacherous landscapes relied on shared knowledge and mutual aid. The West was built by a remarkable tapestry of people, women running households and farms while men were away, Black pioneers establishing communities in post-Civil War America, Chinese laborers building railroads, and Mexican vaqueros shaping ranching traditions. Each contribution, no matter how seemingly small, formed the backbone of frontier life. And without these efforts, even the most legendary figures would have struggled to survive, let alone thrive. If the West was truly a collaborative effort, why has history celebrated the individual over the collective? This leads us to the critical role of shared survival in sustaining life on the frontier. Next, we'll uncover how communities provided essential social structures, creating resilience in the face of harsh environments and adversity. Frontier life was unforgiving. Water was scarce, winters were brutal, and food shortages could spell disaster. Survival depended on cooperation. Communities pooled resources, shared expertise, and relied on one another to survive. This wasn't just neighborly kindness, it was a matter of life and death. Women often managed farms, raised livestock, and taught essential skills. Black pioneers established stable communities and businesses. Chinese immigrants braved hostile labor conditions to build railroads and infrastructure. Mexican vaqueros maintained ranching systems. These groups were the unsung heroes whose collective efforts created sustainable towns and thriving economies. Mutual defense pacts were common. Barn raisings and harvest festivals were practical necessities disguised as social events. Communities learned from each other. Medical knowledge was shared. Survival techniques passed down, and resources distributed equitably during shortages. The West was not built by isolated heroism, was built by everyday acts of collaboration and resilience. If survival and prosperity depended on these networks, can we still admire only the gunslingers and outlaws? Or should our admiration extend to the collective spirit that truly made the frontier flourish? In the next segment, we'll explore how legendary figures' success was inseparable from community support. Redefining what heroism really means, let's reconsider legendary figures like Jesse James or Wyatt Earp. They didn't operate in isolation. They thrived because communities provided shelter, intelligence, supplies, and moral support. Their heroic feats were enabled and sometimes even made possible by the quiet, often invisible labor of others. Towns were built collectively, railroads extended with thousands of hands, and law enforcement often depended on community cooperation. Even notorious outlaws relied on networks for survival. The so-called lone wolf was rarely alone. True heroism often lay not in dramatic showdowns, but in collaboration, trust, and mutual aid. By understanding the role of communities, we can see that heroism is not just a flashy act of individual courage, it's the ability to work with others, adapt collectively, and overcome shared adversity. History has been too quick to spotlight the individual and too slow to celebrate the collective. Could we redefine heroism in modern terms, valuing cooperation and shared success over lone achievement? Let's take these lessons from the frontier into today's world. Finally, we'll examine the lasting legacy of collective fortitude and what it teaches us about community today. Understanding the West as a product of collective effort transforms our perception of history. The rugged individual may have been the face, but the body was the community. This insight reshapes the stories we tell and the values we celebrate. Today, communities face different challenges: climate change, social inequality, and technological disruption. Yet, the principles of collaboration, trust, and shared resilience remain crucial. Lessons from the frontier remind us that collective action can achieve what isolated effort cannot. Next time you think of the Wild West, remember the hidden architects, the families, the neighbors, the laborers, and the marginalized groups whose combined effort created thriving communities. Heroism isn't just an individual pursuit, it's a shared endeavor. If you want more stories that challenge popular myths and reveal untold history, make sure to subscribe to Western Tales Official and join us in exploring the real legends of the West. History is richer and more inspiring when we recognize the power of teamwork, collective resilience, and community. The West wasn't conquered by solitude, was built by collaboration. Let's carry that lesson forward in both history and life.